Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
After over 2 years of waiting, we are finally going to get a chance to try the crazy technology that Nike is introducing in the Mercurial Air Zoom Ultra. And when I say we, I mean a very small group of people across the world because Nike is only producing 1,000 pairs. Releasing on March 21st, by the way, so you haven't missed out just yet, and if you are interested in trying to snag a pair for yourself, check out the link down below to the new releases page on my website. As soon as they're available, they will be linked on that page. Also, huge shout out to my good friend and fellow boot nerd, GIMMICK from Unisport. You guys, I'm sure, are very familiar with them. Unfortunately, I don't have my pair as of yet. I'm hoping to get a pair ASAP, so stay tuned for a more in-depth review coming soon, but he's been nice enough to provide me with some pictures and video to show you guys as we talk tech in regards to the new Air Zoom Ultra. With the keyword in all of that being tech, because typical of Nike in presenting their new product as the greatest thing ever, what they're actually featuring here in the Air Zoom Ultra could legitimately be the next big step in football boots with its full-length 4.5mm zoom bag directly underneath your feet. Which is where we're going to start, the zoom unit and the sole plate, the two elements that make up the base of these football boots, which when compared to what Nike first unveiled back in February of 2020, it doesn't look like much has changed. It's the same overall zoom unit. Of course, we're getting a little bit more detail this time around. It's the zoom unit taken directly from the KD12, which is a pair of basketball shoes that I've actually worn, and I really like the feel of them. I can't say that the zoom unit made for anything revolutionary in terms of response and overall comfort, but they were super comfortable. Although I think the implementation of zoom unit when you have an EVA foam midsole underneath that to further enhance the cushion is very different than how it could feel and could perform in a pair of football boots where it's sitting directly on top of a solid plastic sole plate where you're running around on grass, where of course the amount of cushion provided by the playing surface is going to vary a lot from surface to surface. Now, for those that don't know anything about Nike's Air Zoom tech, the zoom bag featured on these Air Zoom Ultras is effectively kind of a thin, almost air-filled, but also reinforced cushion under your foot that runs from heel to toe, where the idea is not necessarily just to provide that squishy sensation underfoot. It's supposed to provide a responsive sensation, that springy effect, where every time you step down, it has enough pressure and enough strength to it to propel your foot back up. And obviously it's only this thick, so the amount of actual propulsion that Nike is promising here remains to be seen. I expect it to feel very comfortable, although there are some complications with compression underneath your feet that we'll talk about in just a second. The question is whether or not this will provide so much energy return, so much responsiveness compared to other football boots that it will truly feel like an advantage. I think the best comparison you can make in the football boot industry right now is the Carbitex carbon insert in the forefoot of the Speedflow line, where you do get that little bit of a spring effect from the bend and flex of this carbon that wants to bounce back into its shape as soon as pressure is applied. That's more or less kind of the same concept that Nike is going with here, but you have that across the entire bottom of your foot, and it's really just bearing weight on top of that zoom unit that's going to kind of trigger that bounce back effect. So it should, in theory, feel quite a bit different in comparison to this, but it's kind of the same general idea. I think this is really good. It's truly functional technology. Whether or not this actually makes you quicker or provides energy return that benefits you as a player in any way, I don't think there's any real advantage here, but it does feel quite good. However, even though Nike is not touting this as a comfort element, this is where I think this could be a truly revolutionary technology or something that's actually detrimental to the overall comfort. If it is as springy as I think it's going to feel, similar to what is found in the KD12, think of this as kind of the world's most cushioned insole underneath your foot without compressing too much to the point where they feel sloppy. In that regard, I think this could be a really, really impressive piece of technology, and that for me is what I'm super excited about. Having that little bit of impact protection underneath your foot along with a little bit of response, I think could make for an underfoot sensation that we've never ever felt before in a pair of football boots. And we have to keep in mind that Nike has used their Zoom Air tech on football boots in the past, although I don't think any of them have really provided that unique a sensation underfoot that they're promising with this new technology. My concern, however, is that even though this is 4.5 millimeters, because you are going to get compression, that means that there's going to be potential for movement inside of your boots, where potentially your heel is what I'm most worried about, could slide up and down. That can cause rubbing, that can cause blisters. So it's gonna be the perfect balance where you wanna have that little bit of compression to get that spring back effect, but you don't wanna have too much compression. Given how thin this Zoom unit is, I don't think that's gonna be an issue, but until I've actually had the chance to try the boots myself, that's not something I can really comment on. Now, because of this Zoom unit, the construction of the sole plate is also quite unique in that it's just two main elements. You have the plastic base and then the Zoom unit that kind of sits inside of a cavity. So basically, like we have with the current Mercurial series where it has that anatomic shaping to it, it looks like you're going to sit slightly inside of the sole plate, giving you that very contained effect, but of course having whatever modifier in terms of feel that Zoom unit underneath your foot is going to provide. As far as the sole plate itself is concerned, it's what Nike is calling Synergia. That's what it is. It's the Synergia sole plate, which is actually different from what we saw on the Nike GS 360, which had a split sole construction, but it's the exact same FG stud pattern. So obviously Mercurial-esque in terms of its stud pattern, but not something that is entirely new. I've tried the GS 360. I think that sole plate and stud pattern felt really good. So I'm expecting big things from this as well. Of course, with this two-piece construction that this football boot effectively has, we don't know the true weight of the Zoom unit. I'm curious to see what the overall weight of this product is going to be, because I think there's potential for that Zoom unit to just have a little bit of extra weight to it. So whether or not these will be lighter or the same weight, perhaps even heavier than the current Mercurials, that's something that I'm really curious to see, which of course I will weigh them once I get them in my hands. Which brings us to the upper, where Nike have done some revisions compared to what they originally showed over 2 years ago. The upper is no longer fly print, which is something that we've still never seen on a pair of football boots, and at this point probably never will. Instead, you're getting a textile-based upper that is admittedly very similar looking to the Vaporposit material currently used on the Vapor 14 and Superfly 8, which is definitely not a bad thing. If anything, this maybe looks a smidge thinner, but I think most importantly, and something that a lot of people are kind of excited about, and kind of a step back for Nike as far as technology in the Mercurial series is concerned, we're seeing the return of flywire cables through the midfoot, just two strands kind of running into two different lace holes, but that's there to provide a significant amount of structure. And just based on how this upper looks, especially given how much of it is translucent, I'm kind of expecting these football boots to be as thin as possible and provide no extra padding whatsoever. The concern there is whether or not these are going to feel like rigid plastic, but if anything, it kind of reminds me a lot of what Puma currently has on the Ultra 1.4, and if it's anything similar to that, I think these should feel pretty good. The shape of the boots is of course very Mercurial-esque. In fact, Mercurial is in the name, which of course means that it does have a central lacing system. And again, something we haven't seen on the Mercurial series since the Vapor 9. This features a regular standalone tongue, which is something that I am personally very excited about. Really interesting that they decided not to go with a one-piece upper, but nonetheless, I think this design looks quite good, and I'm really excited to see how they're going to fit and feel on feet. I think not going with a one-piece upper does typically lend itself better to fitting more foot types more comfortably, just because you have more adjustability. Not to mention it'll be much easier to put the boots on and take them off. Of course, a low-cut design, relating this more to the Vapor than the Superfly, and you can see the heel liner has a really soft kind of synthetic suede microfiber material, which I'm anticipating being quite comfortable. And then finally, something else that I think is really interesting to consider in this limited edition release is the use of the word Ultra in the name of the football boots. Of course it's a Mercurial, of course it has the Air Zoom, but it's an Ultra, and the last time we saw an Ultra was in this football boot right here, the Nike Mercurial Flyknit Ultra, which was basically kind of a teaser of what was to come from the Mercurial series moving forward, where of course the entire line transitioned into Flyknit uppers rather than just having the Superfly be the Flyknit option. Some people love the change, some people hate the change, but regardless, the Flyknit Ultra was more or less that test bed for what was coming from Nike. So if this as an Ultra model is going to be anything similar, expect to see the next generation Vapor 15 and Superfly 9 to be something a along the lines of what this Air Zoom Ultra is right now. If anything, I fully expect the Air Zoom tech from the Air Zoom Ultra to make its way into the Vapor 15 and Superfly 9, which I would bet is going to release sometime before the World Cup this year. Probably second half of 2022.